Welcome to Context Bites. Here you'll find lots of ideas that you can use for your AO3 links for English literature. Welcome back, and in today's video we will be looking at the role of the nurse and exploring if there's more to her than meets the eye. Traditionally, the nurse has always been seen as a comedic character as well as a mother figure, and from the beginning her motherliness towards Juliet is obvious. Her choice of language tells us that she has a close relationship with Juliet, as she often uses terms of endearment to describe her, such as sweet, ladybird, or lamb. And it is these qualities which make her a likeable character. And Shakespeare explores this close relationship between the nurse and Juliet through their interactions. Quite frequently, the nurse will tell stories of when Juliet was a baby, calling her the most beautiful babe. When Romeo and Juliet fall in love, she does everything she can to support the two lovers in their quest for love. She even visits Friar Lawrence on their behalf. In Act 3, she defends Juliet in front of Lord Capulet, knowing that she could get punished because of it. And finally, when she learns of Juliet's supposed death, she cries much more than Juliet's own mother. So given their close relationship, you would be led to believe that the nurse's loyalties therefore lie firmly in Juliet's corner. However, we have to remember that the play is set within Elizabethan times, and women like the nurse therefore existed within the constraints of society at the time. So let's explore what some of those constraints would be. Firstly, consider who her employer is, Lord Capulet, the patriarch of the family and the person who pays her wages. It puts the nurse into a bit of a difficult position, as although she may want to be loyal to Juliet, she also wants to keep her job, and so at times she may find her loyalties divided. Act 3, Scene 5 is a perfect example of these divided loyalties. As the peripeteia or turning point in the play, this scene also marks a turning point in the relationship between the nurse and Juliet. When Lord Capulet yells at Juliet for not being grateful for arranging the marriage between her and Paris, the nurse is the only character to step in and defend Juliet, stating, "You are to blame, my lord," to rate her so. Lord Capulet quickly responds to the nurse, saying, "Peace, you mumbling fool." Effectively, the nurse has been silenced here by the patriarchy, and she doesn't speak another word until after Lord Capulet leaves. Following his departure, she immediately tries to convince Juliet to marry Paris and forget Romeo altogether. So what could her change in attitude be down to? Well, Shakespeare tells us that the nurse is childless, having lost her Susan when she was a baby, and it's also suggested that her husband has passed away, leaving the nurse an aging, single woman alone in a harsh and cruel society. Imagine if Lord Capulet were to throw her out on the streets. She would soon find herself destitute. And we know Lord Capulet is capable of this, because he threatens Juliet, his own daughter, with this very action, and would therefore have no second thoughts about doing it to the nurse. Perhaps we can therefore see why the nurse advocates for Juliet to marry Paris. She knows that if Romeo and Juliet's secret were ever revealed and her role in it discovered, that Lord Capulet would find a suitable punishment. And this is a risk she cannot take. Sadly, the nurse, like many of the female characters, are trapped by the patriarchal system. Not in terms of marriage in this case, but in terms of her livelihood. Let's consider one more aspect. Think about where we see the nurse's interactions take place. We mostly see her indoors, whether that's in the Capulet household, for example Juliet's bedroom, at the Capulet ball, or in Friar Lawrence's cell. She rarely interacts outside the Capulet walls, and when she does, she's always chaperoned by another male character. Why do you think Shakespeare does this? What do these locations represent? Pause the video and jot down some ideas. The Capulet household, as well as the friar's cell, his private space, represent systems of control the nurse cannot escape from. Under Lord Capulet's roof, he is the one in charge, and ultimately the nurse sides with him over his wishes for Juliet to marry Paris, because she feels she has no choice. You could therefore see the Capulet household as a physical representation of the patriarchal system. Likewise, the friar is an extension of the church, an institution which during Elizabethan times also set out rules and guidance for people to follow. By limiting the nurse to these locations, Shakespeare is perhaps suggesting that the nurse cannot exist outside of these places, and therefore outside of these systems. Is this why Juliet feels so betrayed by the nurse, as she does aspire to live outside of these systems of control? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your ideas in the comment section down below. Don't forget to check out the next video in our series.